plain and
Yeah.
simple.
After like years of capoeira, what made you want to start like expanding your ability into other arts and practices?
So a lot of my desire honestly came from once I took the path of teaching. Once I was like, okay, like I'm teaching this art. I'm really big on like understanding whoever's training with me, like why they want to train and what they're motivated on outside of life. If I don't understand that, then I don't really feel like I'm equipped to teach you or share with you rather. I don't really like to say teach, share with you. And so once I decided to do that, I started noticing how many people were saying, I want to do this for self-defense. I was like, okay. So the vast majority of the people that I at least survey or interact with, train with, they're all saying self-defense is why they want to learn this martial art. And then, of course, what do you do when you get pieces of data? You have to dissect it down to its most distilled form, and then you have to blow it out. So I just doing the typical, let me just research these words just to see what pops up and do the definition. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize self-defense was considered a completely different realm than martial arts was. Then in between that, we have combat sports. And I was like, oh shit, that means we have a big problem here, because that means the audience is coming to a platform looking for a different solution than what's being provided. And the issue becomes compounded because you don't find out, like myself, until years later. So, and again, of course, if you have amazing teachers that are always cross training, you won't have this problem. But if again, I very much encourage people, yes, you do need to deep dive into one art and get that foundation. But yeah, like I think once I realized that most of the public wants to be able to defend themselves, but the criteria for teaching self-defense is completely different than traditional martial arts or combat sport. It's a completely different thing, because now we have to start incorporating the environment, and we have to start incorporating the brain and the body and how it reacts to stress. So my reason for cross training was basically to make sure that whatever I shared as techniques worked across all three of these platforms. If I go to a traditional martial arts platform, if I go to a combat sports platform, or if I go to a self-defense arena, or I actually have to defend myself, whatever it is, do these techniques work in all three of these formats? Because that's where I feel people fall short when they have not field tested and cross trained. So basically, to bring the answer together, I wanted to make sure I was teaching effective things.
Yeah, and thank you for wording it like that, because you're absolutely right. Combat sports, self-defense, and martial arts often are different things with different intentions at the root of them. And a lot of people not understanding that difference ascribe different values to different practices and then wonder why they're not getting to the place that they want to get to. So understanding those three languages and being able to translate between them makes that process easier, and also makes it more palatable for the consumer that might not understand how different the processes are. And within that, I wanted to, it seems like in self-defense, that instead of the foundation being like physical conditioning and cardiovascular conditioning and the ability to memorize like katas and stuff, it seems like the foundation of self-defense is more internal, built on like building like confidence and situational awareness and stuff like that. What would you think the foundations are for like self-defense, combat sports, and martial arts?
I'd like the differences in the foundations.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. So for me, like the self defense, you kind of nailed it when you said situational awareness. Self defense to me is the epitome of situational awareness, and it's having a couple tools that work. It's not complicated. Situational awareness. These couple tools work. I'm throwing this elbow because this elbow is really strong, whatever the case may be. So situational awareness and effectiveness to me is that self-defense arena. Combat sports to me is more so I am proving that my mix of martial arts skills against his mix of martial arts skills is more efficient. So we are still talking about efficiency, but now we're comparing two sets of martial artists. So it's more equally yoked, because now, of course, we're talking combat sports. So we're saying these people are going to be in the same weight class versus in self-defense. That's not the case. I might be really small. They might be really big. I might have to kick them in the balls. Who knows? So there's ethics in the combat sports that will not exist in the street defense, because in street, I'm surviving. Combat sports, I'm showing technical prowess. And I feel like when we go to martial arts, the last of the three definitions, we're more so talking about a foundation of movement for the body, but we're also talking about what I take the most out of martial arts is philosophy, because that is what is absent in the other two. Is when you come to a street defense, it's elbows, poke on the eyeballs, get out the situation. You know what I'm saying? You go to combat sports, it's elbows, knees. Oh, I'm going to take them down. I'm going to arm bar, whatever the case may be. And that's where it stops. You know, I tapped them out, so I won. Or I gouged them and got away with my perch, so I won. Versus in martial arts, it's like, no, how are you living though? Like, are you practicing what you preach? Are you a martial artist through and through? Like, what's your home life like? How you and your wife, or you and your husband, like your significant other, whatever the case may be. So I feel like martial arts requires a deeper curriculum, and it of course requires a lot more time. So I think it's almost a gradient. And that's kind of why I tried to speak of them in that way. I think we're dealing with a gradient scale.